one of the vows that one takes when one is initiated into the school of Sat Yoga is the vow of santosha, contentment. It may seem like a very easy vow to keep, but it's probably the most difficult. To completely and unconditionally accept the hand that you have been dealt. To completely accept whatever your karma has been and will be. And to accept your relationship to God in whatever way God decides that that should unfold. To accept life and death unconditionally, without fear, without wanting more, without running away. And if one keeps that vow of santosha, that becomes the basis for receiving what in English is called grace. But in Sanskrit, there are 3 words that are translated as grace. If you read the Sanskrit texts in translation, you will see that the translators often have a difficult time in distinguishing these 3 terms, and they usually don't bother to do it. One term is Shaktipat. Another is Anugraha. And the third is prasad. All 3 of these forms of grace have 2 levels to them. So that, for example, Shaktipat can be the receiving of Shakti, and it can also be the grace of being the transceiver, who can transmit the Shakti, the power of God for healing, for awakening, for attaining purity. The Shaktipat can be momentary or continuous as a current into which one has been plugged in and is moving in accord with that energy of divine grace that then determines the future behavior, thoughts, words, actions, feelings, attitudes that all become filled with the power, the information, the wisdom, the energy of God, rather than of an ego. And then there is the Anugraha, which is a more subtle form of grace, in which God performs a kind of chiropractic adjustment of the relationship of all the chakras so that the Kundalini energy can rise and flow and open at the crown chakra. And so that a kink in one's karmic panorama can be removed. It's what I would refer to as a simulation adjustment. We talked in the materials prior to the retreat that sat for this retreat would mean simulation, adjustment, and termination. The Anugraha will adjust the situation and the karma such that something that had been bothering you disappears. It no longer creates irritation or agitation. An insight into its true significance is given so that there can be a release of tension, of conflict, of duality. And suddenly then the world is different. And this can be of a minor sort of adjustment or a very major sort, in which a window of opportunity opens for a life change of a kind that was unimaginable. And if one has the courage to go through that, then life becomes miraculous. And then there is the grace of prasad, which again is two levels. The Anugraha, by the way, is also of two levels in which one can offer that kind of an adjustment through a mahavakya, through an understanding of a certain inaccuracy that by being straightened out permits the flow of the Shaktipat for another. But the prasad is the ultimate form of grace because this can bring about the termination of the simulation. Prasad at the phenomenal level is spoken of as some food, fresh fruits that you would give to a human guru. But really, we are talking about giving yourself to God, becoming God's prasad, being eaten by God, completely consumed and devoured so that you are within the divine light and bliss of God, and the simulation's effects are finished. And the prasad can come in the second way, in a more minor way, as a gift of God, prasad from God in the form of a download of wisdom, of a siddhi, of some power of yoga that can enable a certain kind of achievement that will bring a possibility for redemption for souls who would otherwise not be able to make a leap from the ego to the real. But it is in that final prasad in which you become the prasad of God, because your contentment has made you so beautiful, so fresh, so free of the taint of suffering, that your vibrational frequency is so in resonance with God that you suddenly will feel the settling in to your body and your mind and your heart of an overwhelming power of the presence of God that completely takes over and becomes yourself. This is very much regarded in the Indian mythology very often as a decapitation, such as happened to Ganesha, son of Shiva, who Shiva decapitated and gave a new head of an elephant. But that can happen as the result of a negative karma that has been completely overcome through the santapa of remorse and the tapas of penance, of completely surrendering one's heart and mind and life to God. And then one will receive that transformation in which the mind of God becomes in absolute unison and no different from what had seemed to be a separate consciousness.